Hello, welcome.
Welcome,
Um,
everybody.
I'm Angela Lemonager. I'm the program specialist for the English Learner Services Department.
And I am Timothy Tibbs. I am the instructional coach for the English Learner Services Department. I mean, forgive me if you hear some background music. I'm at home with my kid. As many of you know, it's probably very similar at the same time. So if he pops up, he just wants to say hi.
All right, so we have a quick getting started activity. We all have different comfort levels when it comes to school stuff, to homework stuff, right? So, what I want you to do is take a second, look at all these different pictures of cats, and then kind of judge your level of comfort when it comes to helping with homework at home. So, are you a number one where you just love it? You're in love with doing homework at home? Are you maybe a number five where you're a little bit nervous about it? Or are you maybe like a nine where you don't want to do it at all because it's terrifying? Just drop it in the chat. We've got some confident homework helpers here. Personally, I gave myself a 4, and that is because my 12-year-old is sometimes not wanting to do her homework, and so sometimes it becomes annoying, and so it's like, oh, time for homework again. But I'm glad to see that many of you are homework supporters and excited to help your student. Thank you for doing that with me. Today we're going to talk about homework, kind of the benefits of homework and ways that you can support your student. We're going to talk about a few different ways of helpful studying. And we're going to talk about, or we're going to give you a list of resources. And then just some tips for you for how to help your student be successful at home and at school with schoolwork.
Yes.
So up first, homework.
All right. I get to do the homework section. So what we're doing, so the first thing we want to do is say, why do teachers assign homework? So according to the US Department of Education, the first reason teachers assign homework is it provides extra practice and further exploration on whatever is being studied in the class. It also gets students ready for the next day's class to kind of pre-read to get ready for what they're going to be learning about that coming day. It also helps students learn how to use resources such as libraries, reference materials, and to find information. Like if your student has to work on their own by themselves, it helps them learn how to use those resources that are available to them at school and in the community. It also teaches students to work independently because homework is done on the student's own with proper some help at home as opposed to in the classroom. And lastly, the US Department of Education says homework encourages self-discipline and responsibility for those students to kind of focus and be on that. Because if they get their homework in, it shows the responsibility, it shows that they can focus and really that self-discipline to finish up.
And I see we have a hand up. Amelia, do you have a question?
I think no one can unmute, so maybe if you want to write the question in the chat, that would be helpful.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, apparently we're going to do this again.
Okay.
Fun.
Nice.
That's a
Fun.
quick review. I hope you memorized everything.
Just kidding. All right, student tips. Now, what are some tips that your student, maybe your student's home with you right now, maybe you're about to pick them up in a little bit, they're doing after school work, but the first, so please share this with your students and encourage them to follow through and do similar and take these tips to heart. So the first tip we want to talk about is keeping a student, keep an organized notebook. Knowing the dates, the time, the agenda. That's like, so they might have a planner. Some schools give out planners. They might have a planner they make themselves. It's a calendar or schedule that they can know, like, I have this much homework on this day, or they have to do, this is due tomorrow. Students should also make a plan. When that project's due, when's it going to get done? Let's follow through with that and like follow through on that plan. One of the tips that I find really helpful when I was a student that I really helps with my daughter at home too is making a consistent time. So I'm not the type of parent who says, right when you get home, you have to do homework. I can let my daughter play, run around. She's in first grade, right? And then, we eat dinner, and then after dinner, that time after dinner, while I'm putting her brother to sleep, then she focuses on her homework. She has that hour just to work on that homework consistently. So just make a consistent time in the day. So as opposed to like, oh, I got all this work, I got to do it at this time. It's like, if you know that 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or even 4 p.m. right after school is homework time, have that as a consistent time. Another tip is to find a spot that's doesn't have a lot of distractions, a lot of things going on. It could be a broom, by themselves. It could be a desk. It could be, in the corner of the kitchen table. Like my daughter does it in the kitchen table. So while we're all getting everybody out, she's by herself working on that kitchen table. So she has her spot. She can work with distractions. Oh, and I missed when I saw that. So be from distractions and also start with the most difficult subject first. So now I'm flipping them. The difficult subject first, the reason for that would be sometimes, as you know, the more you work on something, your brain kind of gets tired. And so working on the harder projects and the harder work first, whether it's going to be math, science, or English or reading, doing that first. And then as it gets like maybe math is easier for your student, maybe they'll do their reading first and then they'll do their math after. And then the next point I said already, having a space to work. And our last tip is just start, no excuses, right? There's no reason, I got a homework, I get the homework done, focus on that, get it done. Like it's that time of day you're going to work. We're going to work at that moment. Now, as parents, how can you help? And we'll go through a little bit. The first thing would be to be in contact with your child's teacher. We did a session a few months ago, earlier in the fall, saying like being able to communicate with your teachers is very important. Having those moments with that teacher, whether sending an email in Spanish or using Parent Square, however you communicate with your teacher, do that. So be in contact with your teachers. Many teachers also have their grades in Aries, and we're going to show you in a minute how to go through it and get to Aries, and the page that you can find the information on, and we'll put that in the chat as well. Check your grades and assignment on Google Classroom frequently. We'll also show a way. The Google Classroom, you should have a connection with your teacher. If you haven't done so already, reach out to the teacher and say, can you please add me to your Google Classroom? Because your students are already added, but you can also be added to the Google Classroom. And so how do we access the portal? So I was going to walk through this. I'm sorry. So the first thing you want to do, there's a website that's called Parent Corner, and we've shared it in the past. It's a really useful website that you can go to. I'll go ahead and so this is the here it is. So we have the Parents Corner here, and if you're on this Parents Corner, can you scroll down there for us, Angela? You have all sorts of information here. Bus schedules, meals, math, how to get Chromebooks. You have Heriberto has family community engagement right there. We have some visual and performing arts. We have multi-tiered. So there's lots of information for you, and even join the TR team. We're hiring. But we want to kind of lead you to this point right here that Angela's pointer is on, the family and community engagement spot. So once you're there, you can see this is Heriberto can maybe go on to this if you would like to. But there is a button that says online learning applications for families right there where she's clicking. And these are the online learning tools. So the top one is for your students. Every student has a TRUSD apps portal where there's applications and they can get to their classroom. Your student has an email. I don't know if you know this, but every single student has an email address, a Children Rivers email address that they can get messages in. You have your online curriculum. You might have other things in that backpack as well. And then there's also the parent portal, which is an Aries parent portal. All right, Sam. Okay, buddy, I'll get to it in a second. And so the parents portal is also another option for you to go to, and that's how you can sign on. It's an application. There's go to parents.twinrivers.org or download the app on iOS or Google Play. And then through Aries, you can communicate to your teacher. You can see your students' grades. You can also see the Google Classroom there as well. So these are all tools that can help you be involved and see what's going on in your students' classroom. Okay, so going back, like how can you help? So knowing where that is, going to the parent portal, signing up for Aries and getting that application. Your students can also get that application. I taught secondary school for many, many years, and all my students had the application on their phones. They knew exactly what they were missing. If they have a phone, a smartphone. The Google Classroom also has an application that could be uploaded. I know I'm on my daughter's classroom. So there's options that you can be in contact and in connection with your student's teacher. So how else? So continuing this idea. So knowing where all that stuff is, know what's expected from each teacher or class. Every student should get a syllabus home or something similar, should be contact with that teacher. And you should know the teacher's policies. How do teachers deal with late assignments? Because sometimes we know life happens, things get late, things get missed, and things get lost, and that's okay. But if you know how does the teacher deal with that? Is it penalized or is it not? How often does your teacher assign homework? Now, for me, I wasn't a teacher who assigned a lot of homework. I wanted students to read at home. I was an English teacher for secondary school. So they had to read 20 minutes a day at home and write me a little book report at the end of the week of what they've read that week, a summary. But other teachers might have daily assignments. Other teachers might have big projects that are due. So it's just knowing how frequently that homework is assigned. Know how the teachers test. Also very important, because some teachers are online and do it all online. Some teachers can offer support and translate tests for students or not. So how do they format their tests? And what recommendations do these teachers have for them to be successful on how to study for their tests? So if you're curious, if your student may not be doing well on tests, like, oh, my student isn't passing this test, what's wrong? Reach out to your teacher and ask for recommendations, like how to be successful and how to study for their tests. So knowing, like, what can my student do to help do better in your class and on these tests? And I think most of all, make it supportive and a positive experience. So, I mean, there is this idea that, like, oh, get your homework done, like, get your homework done or no dinner, which, okay, maybe I've threatened my daughter once. I try not to. But the idea is like, hey, what homework do you have today? Let's be try to make it positive. Like, oh, what did you learn? What are you practicing? In home language or in English, like practicing yourself. Like, what are you doing today? What's due tomorrow? So just make it positive, be supportive, and really encourage that homework completion, study completion. Which leads us to our next point. Studying. I'll turn it over to you, Angela, for this one.
All right. So studying. Tim has chosen 2 techniques to show us today or to talk about today. One of them is called SQ3R, which stands for survey, question, read, recall, review. So there's a video here that we're going to show. It's a reading technique for textbooks and other homework. And so translators, if you need me to stop so that you can summarize or whatever, just let me know, because this video does not have an option for me to have it translated into a different language, unfortunately. Is that okay? Right.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working on it for about a week. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly to edit.
You have many things that pull at your attention, and after a busy day, it may be difficult to concentrate on reading for schoolwork. So here are a few strategies to build strong study skills and improve your understanding of the material so your voice can be shown in your writing later on. The SQ3R study method is a proven strategy to increase reading comprehension. It's been used by students for over 70 years, so we know it works. This method consists of a 5-step process: survey, question, read, recite, and review. This resource has been adapted from the article Lay et al. 2010. Let's look at each one of the steps in detail. The first step is to survey. Skim the reading to quickly understand the main ideas and anticipate what will be covered. Take brief notes and pay close attention to summaries, introduction and conclusions, titles and headings, and pictures and charts for detailed explanations. The second step is to question. Write out questions from what you just reviewed. Turn paragraph headings and titles into questions, as well as illustrations and charts. Then jot down other questions that might come to mind. These questions will help you actively read the material to concentrate on the deeper meaning. The third step is read, which is the first of the 3 R's in this method. Read the material to actively seek out the answers to the questions you just created. Take notes in your own words, adding in your own thoughts about the material, and then jot down the page numbers for the in-text citations so you can incorporate your notes in your writing later on. The fourth step is to recite. Now it's time to reflect on what you just read. Without looking at your notes, think about everything you just learned. Try to recite the material from memory and then reread the material for unanswered questions. The last step is to review. Review one last time and test your understanding of the information. Look back over your questions and answers, then organize your notes according to your assignment. This last step will help you apply the material in a personal way so you can retain what you've learned and apply it to your assignment. Each person has a unique learning style, so there isn't a one.
All right. So that is one method for studying. And that's mostly for older students who have to read from a textbook or nonfiction story or even a fiction story. And also there's an article linked here that you can access later if you would like to read more about it. Thank you, Roberto. And then the next one that we're going to watch, this is a different technique. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And it's meant to help be motivating. So it's a way to structure your time so that you can get your student or your studying and your homework done.
This is the story of making a very large physics-defying big game spot in a very small.
Hi everyone, it's Yanis here, and in this video we will explore what is the Pomodoro technique. If you want to improve your focus, then this technique might be exactly what you need to try before looking any further. If this is your first time on this channel, then make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to get updates on my latest videos about time management and productivity. The Pomodoro technique is a time management method developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s. The technique uses a timer to break down work into intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, separated by a short break. Each interval is known as Pomodoro, from the Italian word for tomato. Here are the steps that you have to follow if you want to improve your focus and concentration following the Pomodoro technique. Step 1. Choose the task. This will give you one focus point where you will be directing all your attention. Step 2. Set timer. Set your timer for 25 minutes. Make sure that you close all unnecessary tabs on your computer and turn on Do Not Disturb mode on your phone. Step 3. Focus. Here you do one thing only. Work on the chosen task until you hear the sound of the timer. If you do get distracted by your thought or something else, then write it down on a piece of paper and get back to the work. For this reason, I like to keep my journal handy. Step 4. Take a 5-minute break. Once the 25 minutes are over, you have to take a quick and refreshing break. Step 5. Repeat. After the break, you repeat all the steps again to get another 25 minutes of focused work done. You repeat this process 4 times and then have a longer break of 20 minutes. And that is the whole process of using the Pomodoro technique to improve your focus and concentration. I hope that you enjoyed this video and I was able to give you quick.
Okay, so that is a technique for helping students manage time. That length of time I would only recommend for older high school students. When you're working with your elementary school students, I would definitely cut that down to maybe 10 minutes max focused work time, and then give them a few minutes to go try a different activity and then come back to the homework if they need it. So those are some suggestions for that. Now, how you can help studying. You can encourage open and sincere communication. And by that, I mean with your child, but also with your school. So if your student is struggling for some reason, they don't want to do their homework, or there's just some sort of an issue, be sure to communicate that to your teachers so that they know and they can help you. But also, it's very important for your student to be able to talk to you about how they're feeling instead of just trying to, push through it on their own. They definitely need your support. Another way you can help is by helping them focus on their interests, especially during that break time. Encourage them to do something fun for their couple minutes off before they return to their work. I forgot to click the thing. There you go. Focus on child's interests and share enthusiasm for learning. So making learning something that everybody's excited about is going to help your student feel excited about it too. Make learning fun through games, especially our younger students. They really appreciate interacting with family members and playing games. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. You can, if you're learning vocabulary, you can do Go Fish if you're familiar with card games. But there's a whole lot of ideas out there. If you want some more information about that, you can reach out to us, or you can reach out to your child's teacher. Yeah, it's important to focus on what the student is learning, not on their performance. So if they're getting a low score, maybe don't be so hard on them about the low score, but let's focus on what it is that they've learned from the lesson so that they know how much more they need to learn, right? The most important part is not the score. The most important part is that they're learning. Also, you can think back to the homework tips that we shared previously. Those also apply to studying. Again, continue to communicate with your teachers. They're on your side, and they're helping you support your students as well. And finally, make sure you're giving students space to work. They really do need that dedicated special place in the house to do their work. Any questions so far? Okay. Now we're going to move on to some resources. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, I said resources. Yeah. So we finished. This is a cool spot. So what we've collected here is we've collected some resources that may be better than others. Sorry. So some resources are very useful. Like we're gonna we'll look at one, like, so the first one is like a website of just kind of a bunch of information and different flashcards that students can find and study, depending on what the subject is. And maybe for secondary kids or students, this might be useful. But you know, it may not be everything you need, but they do have language flashcards in different languages. Russian and maybe Spanish is probably there as well. So that could be useful as well. There's Common Core flashcards for different grades for math, and there's medical, military, all sorts of stuff on there. We didn't evaluate all of it, but there's information and tools for your students to use there. Vocabulary.com is another good website that students can use. A lot of teachers use it to look up words, like if they have a vocabulary assignment or if something is due. It's a good spot to kind of look, give you the definitions and examples. There's even test your word knowledge right there. So all sorts of cool stuff on that side as well. Quizlet is also more flashcards, more practice, maybe different ideas than like, the cram one, but there's still, there's still things that you can do. And most of these are they're free, or you can look things up for free. So it's not I
know my account. I'm sorry, my account is a teacher account, so I'm not able to show you.
Uh-oh. Automatic sign in. And the Go Conquer, this one I looked up, and it just seemed to be. I started an account here, but there's a lot of it, and I started it because it was free. And there's a lot of knowledge here on graphic organizers, which we don't even get into, but they're very helpful for your students. More flashcards, more quizzes. I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. But it's just a lot of tools are out there, and sometimes it could be overwhelming. But and also there's this last one is Photo Math, which I thought is cool. You could take a picture. It's an application, as well as so on Google Play or the App Store. So if there's a math problem, you can take a picture of the math problem and it could work out. I haven't used it, but it seems like, as someone who struggled in math, mostly in high school, but if it's something that could be helpful, it could be something that could be helpful for your students as well. So just a lot of tools, and you will have a copy of this, as Roberto said, Mr. Soto said. So you can explore these, yeah, at your leisure. Want to go on this one? Talk a little bit about this, Angela, or should I? You want to bring up a few other pieces?
You're doing great.
All right. Well, the first one is a parent checklist. And I'll just kind of, we can look at that one. How about, can you go into this one? Kind of the thought behind this one, Angela, and then I can do the other ones.
Yes. So this one, we looked at the California Department of Education's website for some information for you. And they had this checklist for families to look through so that you can be doing some things to help your students be successful. And the one that I looked at was pretty old. And so I modified it and put it together in this document for you if you're interested in. So the couple of categories, so show that you think education and homework are important. And the way that it works is these bullet points is here's how you show your child that you think education and homework important. Do you set a regular time? Do they have what they need? Do they have a place? And do you talk to your child's teacher? So these are just some guidance for how you can help. And I linked down at the very bottom here is a link to the original place where I got the information if you're curious. Then we have a checklist here for students as well. So there's one for parents and families, but there's also one for students. It's very important that students take the time to think about what they're learning and what they need. So having them do a study skills checklist also is important so they can recognize what they do well and what they might need to get better at so that they can get their studying done.
Some of these other ones are also, these are also, sorry, I apologize. Some of these are also articles that you can read and look at. We don't have to go through all of them, but there's habits of highly effective students, like what could be good for a student to do that. We added a Cornell Notes as a great note-taking strategy. It's also an article. Sketch notes, those are more videos, and sketch notes are pretty cool because it's like a different version in terms of like, instead of just taking handwritten notes, you could, instead of taking handwritten notes, you could just draw pictures and sketch and doodle. And I know a lot of students like to doodle. So
did you want me to show this video, Tim, or?
Sure, you can show it. I'll be right back.
Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual. Today I want to share with you a preview of Sketchnoting in the Classroom, a resource kit that I'm building for educators who want to bring visual note-taking into their classroom and share this skill with their students. What you're about to see is the first video that teachers are encouraged to play in their classroom so that students get a feel for what the series as a whole. Hello and welcome to Sketchnoting in the Classroom. My name is Doug Neal. I will be your host throughout the word sketchnoting, which might be new to you. Sketchnoting is a form of note-taking, hence the noting part of it. But as you might guess, it involves bringing more visuals into the process compared to typical note-taking, hence the sketch part. The whole idea behind adding sketches to your notes is that it taps into parts of your brain that would lie dormant if you only use words to explore ideas. It's the combination of the two that's most powerful, using both words and visuals while taking notes. That's what will fully light up your brain. What's nice about sketchnoting is that it's not a strict format. It doesn't say you have to take notes this way. Instead, it presents you with a variety of tools for you to choose from and create your own customized note-taking process, one that works well with your learning style and your personality. So for the doodlers out there, your notes might be heavy on the sketches. For those who prefer working with words, you might stick mostly to that, but maybe bring in some diagrams here and there to help you organize those words. And there's plenty of room for everyone in between those two ends of the spectrum. So most of what we'll be doing in this series is introducing you to a variety of note-taking tools and letting you experiment as you combine them in different ways to help you take better notes in class, study better outside of class, plan projects more effectively, and ultimately become better at working with and presenting ideas.
All right. So, what is important about that I wanted to talk about with you is that, as the guy was saying, your brain, when you pair language with images, your brain is really working double time and it's really helping solidify things in your mind that you're learning. So if you see your students sketching or doodling in their notebooks, perfectly fine. Encourage them to do that. Also, we all have different strengths and ways of seeing the world. Personally, I'm a words person, so I will use words and sentences more than I would diagrams or drawing things out. However, Tim is a doodler, so he might draw his notes out on paper, but we're still getting the same information. We're still learning the same information. So drawing is a very powerful way of learning as well. Tim?
Yes. So yeah, no, I think for sketch notes, that's great. I think it's just an interesting way. I discovered sketch notes actually just last year. And I wished I knew about them before, because as Angela said, like, I like to doodle. It's hard for me to like sit still and like write, but I can listen and I can draw and I can sketch and I can create these images, and it just helps me remember it. So it's a really interesting strategy that, I mean, it might help you even if you want your parents to take it with them. Meetings, do it. It's good times. So a few more points I wanted to kind of look at. So this link, the foldables, if you click on the link, the foldables, this is a big book, so it might take a minute to load. But this foldables were something that came out a while ago. I feel like it was the early 2000s, and it's just a different way of taking notes. A lot of elementary teachers use them. It's like you create different specific notes, and this is a book on how to create those notes. It was meant for teachers and ideas, but if you wanted to explore it, you should have access to it. You should be able to make a copy, or at least print a PDF or something if it's on your computer. But you can see all the different ways that you can create. There's timelines. Here's a way to create flags. So here's a basic foldable if you're making just like a burrito, or the shutter foldable, or hot dog, they call it. So it's just an interesting way to like put notes on paper. So feel free to explore that. The next article is vocabulary strategies, and I wanted to kind of point the last two out. So the vocabulary strategies, these are just against an article. And if you do want to translate, you can actually install, if you have a Chromebook or on your student's Chromebook, if you upload this on your student's Chromebook, there's a way that you can translate the entire page using Google Translate. And this is just strategies that you can look through to help your student learn vocabulary, which I know is a big piece for a lot of our English learners, is learning those vocabulary, those academic ones. Reading is important, and it goes down a list of things that are really important to help build the strategies of vocabulary. And the last one I think might be helpful for parents who may not understand what's going on. This is an article.
Me, like, especially right now with my older child doing math homework. Math today is taught way differently than it was when I was growing up, and I struggle a lot with helping with that homework.
So
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that connection. Absolutely. So these are just some strategies to you for you that you could use. Like, oh, if I don't know what's going on, you know, it's okay to ask for help. Like the tips are, it's okay to admit you don't know, and that's fine. A lot of parents may not want to do that. I know, I mean, maybe even teenagers may not want to do that, or kids may not want to do that. Setting time limits, trying not to support the different ideas, also like knowing that it's okay to ask for help or encourage them. Like that's really important, knowing, you know, it's okay if you need help. Right out the thought process. So just some cool things that you can look at and explore. We just wanted to collect a bunch of resources in one spot. And I know there's a lot out there. I mean, Angela and I just dug deep into that. And we were just like, what do we want to share with our families? And these are some of the things that stuck out to us as things that could support us.
Okay. We wanted to give you a few minutes to go through and explore some of the links that we put in the chat. And so what we're going to do is mute ourselves for about 5 minutes. It would be great if you could go check 1 or 2 of those sources out, and maybe if you're feeling brave and helpful sharing, come back and tell us what you thought about it. So again, I'm going to mute. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to go look at some things, and then we'll come back together.
So did anybody want to share in the chat anything in particular that kind of stuck out to you or you thought was intriguing and you want to share with us? You can unmute yourselves now if you want to come off mute, but you can also write in the chat if you like.
Yeah, the visual math one was awesome too.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that when Angela presented and I was like, oh, that looks great. Sure, you're welcome.
Did anybody go get their child and make them show Google Classroom?
Photo
Did you
math.
say, show me your assignment?
Yeah, you should definitely have if your child's home, tell them to show you their Google Classroom. All right. If you want to add, oh Jesus, that's awesome. I also imagine learning Mr. Soto has brought up. Please keep adding into the chat if you like. We're just about to wrap up. It's only 5:20, but we wanted to leave these last few minutes for questions. If you have any for us or any specific things, we can do the best that we can. But yeah, so thank you for listening to us for the last 50 minutes. And if you want to have any questions, please ask. Let's talk. Let's chat.